Welcome back to CHOWTIME Pods. Your host, Red. I got a video today from Shoe Says Zed.
Divorce rates are dropping in Kentucky. I went there to figure out why. In 2018, Kentucky became the first state to make 50-50 shared custody the default. That means that children split their time equally between both parents,
Right.
and fathers pay less in child support the more time that they spend with their children. Before that, judges decided custody based on what they called the best interest of the child. Fathers said that usually relegated them to an every other weekend arrangement, the so-called Disneyland dad effect, while mothers got to spend most of the time with their children. Since the law passed, divorce rates have dropped. Between 2016 and 2023, divorces in the state fell 25%, compared to 18%.
And for those of you who are like, she's pretty much telling us what you just told us. I know. The comments are really what we're going to pay a lot of attention to, and we're going to look a little bit more deeper into these ignored abuse claims that these women's groups are stating.
Nationwide. It's hailed as a victory for fathers' rights, but the story is more complicated. Some critics of the law say that people are staying in abusive marriages because they're afraid of leaving their children alone with.
Really? How does that even make sense? That you're scared of leaving your child alone, but you're going to stay with the man that helps take care of your child the whole time. How is that a... Am I dumb? I must be dumb.
A parent with a history of violence. One mom told me that her husband nearly killed her in 2023. She filed criminal charges and he was arrested. But less than 2 weeks after he got out of jail, a judge awarded him 50% custody of their son, indicating that the abuse wasn't a factor since he didn't lay hands on the child. The law has become a model for other states. Arkansas, West Virginia, Florida, and Missouri
Beautiful.
have passed their own versions of the equal custody presumption. Around 20 other states are considering it.
Wow.
Damn,
I
20?
think this is a huge win. I mean, I'm surprised I haven't talked about this until now. This is huge. As always, let's check out some of these comments. Let's see what the people have to say, which the majority are women. There is this top comment by a man. He seems to be the only one here. Let's check it out. All right, this top comment, why does that matter? Because as much as people want to act like men and women aren't different, they do get treated differently in family court. All right, drink the coffee.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Top comment here says, when divorce rates drop, it's always a red flag. Really? Okay. This comment here says, Kentucky is second in DV. So what does that have to do with the new law? Let me explain something to you guys real quick about the DV claims that are most likely being dismissed. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but after I explain to you what I mean, this will all make a little bit more sense to you. And so I'm pulling up here Kentucky law when it comes to DV. And what it includes is physical injury, serious physical injury, right, of someone else. Of course, we have SA, assault, or the infliction of, and here's where the gray area comes, fear or imminent injury, right? So intimidating somebody is inside that broad definition of DV. It's actually a lot more.
Can you just yell at someone and intimidate them? Because now all of a sudden you're an abuser.
Broader in states like California, right? In Cali, here it says breaking property. So like in California, if you break a glass, right, and someone comes over, they will arrest you. Well, there's a high likelihood that they'll arrest you because they see that as DV. Yelling, right? Throwing objects. I could see that.
Yelling? Yelling? Really?
But the yelling, breaking glass, fear, all you have to say is, oh, I'm scared of her, or oh, I'm scared of him. And now they can arrest that person for DV. It gets very broad if you ask me. Blocking someone's way, even disturbing the peace or partner. Remember, we're talking about Cali here. And so
a lot of this is what we're talking about, breaking glass, stopping people's way and stuff. I think women are doing this more, a lot more than men are.
Main point here is it sounds horrible to hear like, oh, they're throwing out cases of abuse. Well, if the person's saying he was yelling at me and so he's abusive in that sense, I believe that shouldn't affect the 50-50 custody, default custody, new custody that's been set in place. But as you can imagine, to these women's groups, they want to broaden those abuse claims as much as possible. And of course, we're going to talk to our AI assistant barista, Miss Coffee. Miss Coffee, what do you think of the gray area abuse claims? And do you think those are most likely Areas where judges may not see that as a cause to not give 50-50 custody.
So yes, something like a broken dish or a loud argument can be filed under DV if the other person says they were threatened or intimidated. Gray area DV examples, things that may not prove someone is truly violent, but could be used in court: property damage, breaking a dish, punching a wall, throwing a phone, verbal fights, shouting matches, cursing, threats that weren't acted on, text messages, social media, angry or harassing messages even if no physical act happened, police called but no arrest, neighbors call the cops after a loud argument, report gets written up, mutual shoving, blocking, someone blocks a doorway during a fight, or light physical contact that leaves no injury. Arguments in front of kids could be spun as creating a harmful environment. Substance-fueled fights, raised voices, broken items, accusations, even if no one is hurt. What happened before versus after Kentucky's 2018 law, before 2018, even these gray area incidents could be used by a mom's lawyer to argue dad was unsafe.
Right.
That often pushed judges to give mom primary custody for the best interest of the child. Result, dad downgraded to every other weekend and higher child support payments kicked in. After 2018, with 50/50ths default, judges start with equal custody. Those weaker DV claims don't automatically block dad from parenting time. Moms can't use minor or ambiguous incidents to tilt custody and therefore child support in their favor as easily.
A few more comments here. This commenter here says, I guarantee you mothers are staying to protect their kids. Come on.
Again, that just sounds so stupid. So you're scared for your kid's life, so you're staying to stay in the relationship instead of leaving the relationship because they might get the kid a little bit more, or 50% of the time. What? But you're with him, and then now he's there with your child 100% of the time, in a sense, right?
Come on. And sure, do judges need to make sure that they're very thorough when it comes to making sure DV claims are validated, if they're true or not? Yes. But to make this law sound like men are just these abusive creatures who can't have time with their children is insane. This is crazy. This comes down to also feminism and their view on men. By the way, did you know that statistically, single fathers do a better job of raising children than single mothers? This is the truth. This is proven. Somebody else here added patriarchy at its worst. Here's somebody else that says, I hate this for the women and kids of Kentucky. Listen, I think this is coming everywhere. I want it to go everywhere. Somebody else who says economically trapped. So this person responded back to, I hate this for the women and kids, and says, kids getting time with their dads equally, which is better for the kids, studies show. Kentucky just doesn't let women grape men through divorce and take the kids. You know, studies show that kids need their fathers.
That they do.
But when it comes to a modern woman, a modern feminist woman, and choosing between her own wants and desires, regardless of what studies say is best for the child, they will always pick themselves. They will always pick themselves. We've seen this over and over again, which is why they justify divorce, because they are unhappy. Here's somebody else who says economically trapped, right? Somebody else who says
economically trapped. How? Right? All of a sudden, because you can't get, full custody and the child support, you're economically trapped, but you don't have to take care of the child 100% of the time. So that means you should have more time to work or do whatever it is to earn your income, without having to pay for childcare or whatever it is.
In a Northern Kentucky mom group, and let me tell you that these moms are deciding whether or not to leave based on this law. It's hard for them. It's hard for them. What is hard for them? Right? What's hard? Like
the money?
Really?
Everything jumps down to the money.
Think about this. Are you telling me that the courts are looking over proof and they're sending CPS to those houses and they're asking kids questions and interviewing them, and the kids are saying, yes, my father's abusive, and they're just letting that slide? Come on, like let's be real here. What's happening is what you're claiming is most likely abuse, fits in those more broader terms of abuse, of yelling, which I'm not saying people should do, but is it really abuse? And we know that modern women are more likely to play that victim role and claim abuse. Here's somebody else who says that's worst case scenario for kids in school. Here's somebody else who says abandoning the best interest of the child standards tells you everything about what this means for women and children in Kentucky. It's so funny that they're totally, these are people who don't believe that kids need fathers.
Yep.
All right. The majority of these people are people who don't believe children need fathers. and they're upset that they can't mooch off child support, which we know in many cases is a scam. The states definitely send bonuses to states that do well going after child support. They incentivize them. It's just the truth. And the more that this happens all over the world, the better. This is, after all, equality. That's what this is. It's equality. And we know we live in a day and age where a lot of chicks claim to be equal, claim to do everything a man can do. They want to be held to the same expectation and standard until it doesn't benefit them. But guys, I really think I should show you guys some numbers here, just some like hypotheticals, so you can see why these women groups are really punching the air right now. Like when you see this visually and how much these men don't have to pay, how much money they're not having to pay, it will all make sense to you when you see this. All right, so here we are. And Ms. Coffey, could you please read this hypothetical? So this is a hypothetical of example before 2018 in Kentucky, how things would have gone, how much a man hypothetically would have paid after 2018, just so you guys get like a good example of what's going on here. Ms. Coffey, can you read this for us real quick?
Perfect. Love. Let's put some numbers to the story so your audience can see how much the math shifts with 50/50ths custody. Before 2018, Kentucky best interest era, dad makes $4,000 month net income.
Okay.
Mom has the kids about 80% of the time. Dad gets every other weekend plus one dinner. Kentucky guideline rate approximately equal to 20% of net for one child. Dad pays around $800 a month in child support. Plus he covers extras, insurance, activities, etc. He's the visitor and the paycheck. Example, after 2018, 50/50ths custody default. Same dad, same $4,000 month net income.
Right.
Now he has the kids 50% of the time. Because custody time is equal, guideline child support gets offset. Dad might now pay around $200 to $300 a month, sometimes zero, depending on mom's income.
And listen, that's not
sometimes zero.
The lowest that it drops when it comes to payments, right? $200 to $300 a month from $800.
He's an equal parent, not just a wallet. The shift in real terms before 2018, $800 plus every month, equal to almost $10,000 a year. After 2018, maybe $200 a month, equal to about $2,400 a year. That's a $7,500 difference every single year. And more importantly, dad gets half his child's life back.
Now, right here it says sometimes zero depending on mom's income. So Ms. Coffey, some people may be wondering in what circumstance might he, the father pay zero? Could you please explain that?
Great question,
money.
love. This is where the math of 50/50ths really matters. Let me break it down super simple. How Kentucky calculates. With 50/50ths, the court looks at both parents' incomes. They add them together to get a combined income. Each parent is responsible for their share of the total, based on what percentage they earn. If custody is 50/50ths, then the parent who earns more usually pays the other to even things out.
Right.
When dad might pay zero if both parents make about the same amount of money. Example, dad nets $4,000 a month. Mom nets $4,200 a month. With 50/50ths time, their incomes are close enough that neither pays support because each is covering their own expenses half the time.
So I want you to imagine on top of this, you have a prenuptial agreement, right? If you're 50/50 custody by default, and on top of that, you guys have a prenuptial agreement, you've really cut down your losses. Of course, assuming you're a responsible dad who continues to do that going forward, you've really cut down your losses.
You know, all of this kind of points to how women just view men too, as we're just users and abusers that we would rather harm our own children than actually take care of them, right? So best in these feminists' eyes is to keep men away and just take their money and use that money to do whatever the hell that they do instead of having that man in their lives. What?
Imagine if she made more money than you. In that case, she's cashing you out. Right? And the reason why this is important is because prenups don't protect child support.
Correct.
But when you have that child support and you're losing half of your stuff, that's a lot. But if that prenuptial agreement protects your marriage and you're not spending money on her attorney's fees and you're not cashing out and you know it's yours, you know it's hers. And in addition to that, you've got 50/50 split when it comes to custody and you guys happen to make around the same amount of money, where would she get a check? She wouldn't. She wouldn't.
Did you know that equal shared parenting laws decrease divorce rates? Well, it's true, and Kentucky proved it. In 2018, Kentucky passed a 50-50 equal shared parenting law. And since then, divorce rates have slowly declined. 25% declined, to be exact. Now, I know what some of these crazy toxic women are out here going to say, well, that's because women are locked in their marriages. No, that's because instead of walking away and thinking that they can weaponize the family courts to take the kids and get a shit ton of money, women realize that that's no longer possible in the state of Kentucky. So they're staying. They're working on their marriage. They're going to marriage counseling, and they're making it work in the best interest of their families. But the divorce system, where there's no fault and where there's no 50-50, it's easy for a woman to walk away because she knows she's going to get the lion's share of the assets. She's probably going to get majority custody, and she's probably going to get child support. So what's keeping her there? If it's not the perfect situation and it's not Prince Charming like in the movies, she doesn't want to stay.
She's right. They expect that perfect situation. You can never upset me. And once you do upset me or do something that doesn't meet my expectations of how this relationship should be, I'm out. But now it's like, oh, I can't just leave just because I don't get money anymore.
Toxic women will choose their happiness over their family. Men every day will choose their family over their own happiness.
Now we do.
And that's the big difference. But when you take away the options of that financial gain of child support and the guarantee of custody, women are choosing to stay. 50-50 equal share parenting laws are not only in the best interest of children, I guess they're also in the best interest of marriages and the nuclear family.
There are reports coming out of Kentucky that the divorce rate has completely plummeted. 25%. It's gone down 25%. Like, that's significant.
It is.
You know, when the divorce rate nationally rests, I don't know, I think a little bit above 50%. To have it drop 25% in one state means to pay attention. It's a reason to pay attention. The only explanation there is for this is because Kentucky passed a law that all custody settlements start exactly 50-50 between the parents. In other words, Kentucky has removed the mother bias that exists across the board in this country when it comes to divorce and custody. As a result, the divorce rate has plummeted. That's interesting. It makes one wonder a bit, doesn't it? It makes one wonder if there is an incentive to get divorced, or a reward, a financial reward for getting divorced. And as soon as you get rid of that reward or that incentive, that's interesting. Every state needs to pass this law. It needs to be a nationwide thing. Kudos to the state of Kentucky for pioneering this badly needed and long overdue legislation.
What if, when you file for divorce, you knew that your spouse would get 50-50 custody? Would that affect your decision? Kentucky has a law where 50-50 is the default. Now, obviously, there are exceptions if there's, domestic violence or whatever, but the default is 50-50. So not like Detroit where the default is every other weekend. If you knew your ex was going to get the kids 50% of the time right off, would that affect your decision to file for divorce? Why or why not?
Does anyone else find it funny or even a little strange that the second Kentucky added laws for, equality and child support and custody cases during divorce, that suddenly divorce rates dropped 25%? It's almost like a lot of these women were only filing for divorce because they knew that they were going to win no matter what the circumstances were, right? Like, you could literally be a cheating tramp that has kids with other men, and you're still going to get half.
That is crazy, like, the idea of you not doing anything wrong, she cheats on you, she decides she wants to leave, she gets the kids and most of your assets. How is that even fair?
Not anymore. Now it's like, all right, we got to look at the case and see who's actually better for the kids, who can, has a place to provide for them and can actually, give them a stable environment. Not, okay, well, you got a pussy, so you get the kids, and well, since the man works, he's gonna pay for it. That's not how that works anymore. And I just think it's funny that the second they enact this, the rates drop. It's almost like if women can't have their life subsidized by their ex, they're more willing to try to make things work. And don't be like, but women are staying in abusive relationships. 71% of abuse isn't unilateral, meaning at least 7 out of 10 victims simply lost the fight they started. Not trying to cheapen what real victims go through, just saying that most of you aren't that. And rare cases don't, justify the whole, so you're still wrong.
I'll bet you didn't know that if you make custody hearings and divorce proceedings 50-50 to start, you actually reduce divorce by 25%. At least that's the example we have from Kentucky. Now, of course, the Wall Street Journal tried to paint this in a bad light. They said a law setting 50-50 shared custody as state standard is hailed as a victory for fathers, but critics say it puts mothers and children at risk. 50-50 custody to start the proceedings puts children at risk? That is such a fucking weird statement to make. Because this doesn't change anything. Like if someone's abusive, or someone's a bad parent, or somebody's on drugs. No, this just means that when you start your divorce proceeding, we start from an assumed position of where the parents are equal. Where their custody of the child is equal. How the fuck does that put mothers and children at risk? It doesn't. All this said was that both parents are equal. Ladies, this is equality. This is what it's like when both men and women are viewed on an equal plane. And just to be very clear, seeing the parents as equal is what it should be.
I call this equality.
Damn right.
What do you call it?
If mom actually makes more than dad, example, dad nets $3,500 month, mom nets $6,000 month. With 50-50th time, mom could be the one ordered to pay dad support.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that happens. If
I can see why they're upset, because women are starting to make more money than men now.
dad is already directly covering most costs, say dad provides the insurance and covers school daycare directly. Sometimes the court sees that as his share and doesn't order a monthly transfer. When dad still pays something if dad earns significantly more than mom, even with 50-50th time. The judge may order him to pay a smaller amount to balance things out. Example, dad nets $6,000 a month. Mom nets $2,500 a month.
Okay.
Even with equal time, dad might pay a few hundred a month to help mom cover her side.
Right.
Simple rule of thumb. Equal incomes plus equal time equal to $0 child support. Mom earns more equal to she may pay him. Dad earns more equal to he pays, but a much smaller amount than under the old mom primary system.
Right. And you got to think too, this is the other thing I just thought about right now is if you're a woman who's a high earner in Kentucky or any other state who respects this law or a version of this law in their state, then you're really incentivized to want that marriage to work all of the sudden. I think we need this in all states. Children need good fathers. They need their fathers in their presence. And a big population of liberal, brainwashed, woke women in particular, and also men don't think that they're that important when studies obviously say otherwise. Hey guys, as
The moment you take the incentive away for women to leave, all of a sudden, they don't leave as much. Interesting. Money really matters. Oh, financial abuse. Wait, you rather stay in an abusive relationship for yourself because you're scared that your kids might get abused, but now your kids are technically with the father 100% of the time, like I said earlier. At least at 50% of the time, you know he's going to be monitored by CPS or whatever it is. You can call CPS on him. That's still always an option, but of course the money is the root cause of everything. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that, and I'll catch you guys next time.